Shalom, Mashpaka. Today's reading will be a light overview on the story of Exodus, upon how the Most High had delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt or bondage. And this reading will come out of the mysteries of the Bible. And we'll read from the top. The book of Exodus stressed that the Israelites' deliverance from Egypt was an act of God. This was demonstrated through the miracles that touched almost every detail of the Exodus story. The awesome might of Yahweh, who had mysteriously chosen the enslaved and downtrodden people of Israel as his own, was the focus of the story. And we know through scriptures that it wasn't by a mystery that the Most High has chosen Israel to be his set-apart people. If we read in Deuteronomy chapter 6, 24 and 25, it reads, "And the Most High commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Most High our power, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Most High our power, as he hath commanded us." It is an everlasting covenant that was established with Abraham, that the children of Israel would always have the inheritance of rulership and power if they were to continue in establishing the laws, statutes, and commandments. Otherwise, they would be put in bondage and under the curses until their sentence has been up and then released upon them returning to the law, statutes, and commandments. Reading on. Egypt was an empire whose mighty gods were well known and whose Pharaoh was worshipped as divine. But the divine Pharaoh was as nothing to Yahweh. Future generations would tell, "Yahweh said, how I have made sport of the Egyptians, and what signs I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Most High." Found in Exodus chapter 10, verse 2. When Moses and Aaron again asked Pharaoh to free the Israelites, he demanded a demonstration of power from them. Aaron cast down his rod, and it became a serpent. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts. Then Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Still, Exodus continues. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. As the conflict began, Yahweh had told Moses, "I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my signs, Pharaoh will not listen to you." That's found in Exodus chapter 7, verse 3 and 4. Thus, even Pharaoh's opposition to Moses was within Yahweh's control. Pharaoh thought that he had the Israelites trapped, but he was the one who was trapped. That our power both saved Israel and hardened Pharaoh's heart posed a theological problem for later generations regarding the nature of human freedom. Rabbinic commentaries on Exodus has explained that Pharaoh's refusal to repent caused the Most High to close Pharaoh's heart so that he would not repent. In the New Testament, Paul used the example of Pharaoh to assert God's absolute power. He has mercy upon whomever he wills, and he hardens the heart of whomever he wills. That's found in Romans chapter 9, verse 18. The book of Exodus itself does not dwell on the mystery of human freedom, but simply states that Yahweh told Pharaoh, "For this purpose have I let you live, to show you my power, so that my name may be declared throughout all the earth." The Most High's power was manifested in the 10 plagues. The first 4 plagues were severe trials. First, Aaron stretched out his hand and turned the Nile and the other sources of water to blood. That's found in Exodus chapter 7, verse 19 to 21. The lifeline of Egypt became a river of death, but Pharaoh's magicians could do the same, and the Egyptians' wells still provided water. Therefore, Pharaoh ignored it. Then hordes of frogs covered the land, but they too could be produced by the magicians. The frogs were such a nuisance, however, that Pharaoh appeared to give in. He recanted when the frogs died. That's found in Exodus chapter 8, verse 1 through 15. Next, Aaron turned the dust into swarms of gnats. The magicians could not perform this trick, and they concluded that it was the finger of God. Pharaoh, however, was unmoved. Exodus chapter 8, found in verse 16 and 19. When the flies of the 4th plague struck, Pharaoh again appeared to concede, but again he recanted when the plague had passed. So you can see here how the Most High has continued to escalate the unfortunate tragedies on Pharaoh and his kingdom in order to release the children of Israel. And it reads on, the next 4 plagues injured the Egyptians and their property, but spared the Israelites. The 5th plague killed their cattle. The 6th covered the people with boils, so that even the magicians could not stand up. But the Most High hardened the heart of Pharaoh, found in Exodus chapter 9, verse 12. The 7th brought lightning and hail, destroying crops and cattle. Pharaoh said, "I have sinned this time. I will let you go." Found in Exodus chapter 9, verses 27 and 28. But when the storm ceased, he sinned yet again and hardened his heart. The 8th plague darkened the land with locusts, so that not a green thing remained. Pharaoh again confessed his sin again against Yahweh. But when the locust passed, the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart. That's found in Exodus chapter 10, verse 14 and 20. The 9th plague brought a thick darkness, a darkness to be felt over Egypt for 3 days. Pharaoh offered several partial concessions to the Israelites, gifts, if you will, but Moses refused to compromise. Thus, Pharaoh drove him out with threats. "In the day you see my face, you shall die." That's found in Exodus chapter 10 and 28. Verse 28, sorry. Reading on. Interpreters have often noticed that many of these plagues corresponded to relatively common phenomena in Egypt. Some have suggested that the reddening of the Nile was not blood, but an annual infestation of minute organisms in the water or the clogged of the river with reddish silt. Often when the Nile receded, hordes of frogs remained in the riverbed. Dead and lying frogs brought gnats and flies, which in turn led to disease of cattle and people. Hail, locust, and the thick darkness of sandstorms were also common. Such a coincidental sequence of disease is, of course, impossible to prove. However, the narrator of Exodus described each plague as a direct action to the Most High. You often see people try to explain these unexplainable phenomena using the worldly wisdom and totally omitting acknowledgement of a superior deity, in our case, the Most High. And it will be a snare unto those who continue to perceive anything such as. Reading on. The final plague was unique in its severity. It became the basis for the most important festival in Israel's calendar, the Passover, or the Pesach. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, later called Nisan, or we say Abib, each family in Israel was to kill a lamb and smear its blood on the doorposts and lintel of their house. That's where we get the mezuzah from. The lamb was to be roasted whole and eaten in haste with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. This was Yahweh's Passover, and we know that the Messiah, his blood, is what covers us. He said, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beasts. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you." That's found in Exodus chapter 12, verses 11 to 13. The Most High commanded Israel to reenact this meal annually throughout your generations. They were to explain it to their children so that it would be a perpetual memorial of the salvation of the Most High had given them, found in Exodus chapter 12, verses 25 and 27. And we know by keeping these law, statutes, and commandments and practicing our feast days and aligning them to prophetic timelines that we see out in the world, how we are to deduce how close we are to these plagues, so we know how to maneuver as the children of Israel did. Reading on. When the horror of the 10th plague struck that midnight, there was a great cry in Egypt. Both Pharaoh and his subjects were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, with their cattle and any silver or gold they wanted. Found in Exodus chapter 12, verses 30 and 36. That night, we are told, more than 600,000 left slavery, 430 years after the arrival of Jacob. The great exodus of the Israelites had begun. I'll jump back over to this page here and read about the Passover, or the Pesach. The Most High told Moses that the Israelites were to slaughter a lamb and mark their doors with its blood. He would smite the firstborn of the Egyptians, but seeing the blood of the lamb on the Israelites' doors, the angel of death would pass over their houses. Furthermore, the Most High commanded the Israelites to observe a feast to the Lord throughout their generations. That's found in Leviticus chapter 23. Thus, on the 15th day of the Israelite month, or the Hebrew month of Nisan or Adar, in March or April, Jews the world over commemorate the exodus from Egypt by celebrating Passover, so called because the Most High passed over the houses of the Jews, or the Israelites. It is also called the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Passover is observed at home in the first night. The slaughter of the lamb is symbolized by the display with various foods. I'll just leave it there. The tears of the slaves by a dish of the salt water. Okay, well, you can read it for yourself, found in the scriptures. All praise to the Most High. I pray that this reading could shed a little more understanding on what took place in the Exodus as an overview, a light overview. But just reproof your reading and go through the scriptures to get the better understanding and the exact understanding found in the scriptures. Until the next lesson, Shalom.